Even though January is well underway, snowfall has been hard to come by this winter, and we are under a snow drought with an unusually low snowfall amount both in December and January thus far. So in today's edition of Climate Friday newsletter, we'll answer the question, where's the snow? And how the weather plays a role in this. And also, is climate change making winter snowfall less frequent and also lower amounts? We're going to answer those questions and tie in the link between climate change and our winter snow and use this winter as a case study in how we've gotten such a little snowfall total so far. So let's delve into the science in this week's Climate Friday and talk about our snowfall drought and also what we're expecting going forward and what you can see in that WTOL 11 weather forecast. Let's jump into the graphics and talk about some of our recent rain and snowfall totals and where we stack up this winter so far. During the entire winter season thus far, we have not even checked in at 2 inches of snowfall accumulation, and this includes the month of November. We started off the winter season with a little bit of snow, and officially we begun winter in December. 1.6 is where we stand for our total winter snowfall, and keep in mind that includes November, December, and January so far. Compared to normal, we're almost a foot below average versus where we should be this time of year. Now, with these warmer temperatures, most of the precipitation we've seen this winter has come in the form of rainfall as opposed to snow, and our winter precipitation total is just shy of 3 inches. Now, January is really notable for the lack of snowfall. Typically, January is our snowiest month of the year. However, we have just had a trace 0 measurable snow this January thus far. In December, let's rewind to where we started things off. 1.2 inches, that was our total snow all of December, and we had more rain than anything during the month of December. You may remember we had one storm that came right before Christmas, and that was noteworthy, not for the snowfall, but more so the gusty winds and the bitterly cold wind chills. December brought us more precipitation in the form of rainfall than it did with snow. Even that, it was drier than average. Now, December officially went down as the 13th least snowy on record, which might not sound too impressive, but we've been taking weather observations in Toledo since the late 1800s. So number 13 for the least snowy on record. December of 2022 will go down as a month that did not bring much snowfall. Compared to some other historic Decembers, 2015 and 2014 take the cake, each of which had just a trace of snowfall during the entire month of December. And now 2018 brought us just 1/10 of an inch of snowfall, and way back in 1891, a little less than 1/2 inch of snow. So those ones, of course, were extremely notable and brought us very little snowfall amounts, but January has truly been the historic month in our snowfall drought. Just a trace of snowfall so far this month, and if January were to end today, it would go down as the least snowy on record. Right now, that currently goes to 1935 with only 3/10 of an inch of snow during the entire month of January, which is really hard to believe because January is typically our snowiest month on record. Time will tell if we add to that total, but right now we are in the territory of very historic Januaries. 1935 only checked in at 3/10, 1/2 inch in 1919, and looking towards 1932, that was another notable January with only 6/10 of an inch, and 7/10 back in 1983, another January with very little snowfall. We still have had some moisture for the ground, but most of that's come in the form of rainfall. We've gotten in about 3/4 of an inch of rain this month so far. So what is a typical winter feature in terms of the distribution of snow? Well, statistically speaking, we are right in the heart of winter. This is the time of year, January. We average over a foot of snow during this month. We should be seeing some pretty significant snowfalls. December usually welcomes in the winter season with about 1/2 a foot of snow. And February also brings some pretty high snowfall amounts on average, with an average snowfall total of about 10 inches during the month of February. And of course, we were well shy of that number. January, where we should be seeing our biggest snows, we have not seen that this year. And February is notable also because the last few years we've seen what we call a backloaded winter. In other words, February, even though it's not quite our snowiest month, the last few years we've seen some big storms during the month of February. So what about some notable winters as a whole? When you look at December, January, and February, the 3-month snowfall total, our least snowy winters include 1931 to 32. Wow, less than 1 inch of snow all winter long. In 1918 through 19, just 1 inch of snowfall. A little shy of 2 inches in 82 to 83. Of course, the winter after that, 83 to 84, did bring some heavy snow, and 2 inches in 1943 to 1944. Now, our biggest single snowstorm of the entire season, hard to even describe that one as a storm, even though we did get some pretty impressive -20 to -30 wind chills with this pre-Christmas storm that did bring some heavy snowfalls to the upper Midwest, such as Minnesota and Wisconsin, and also some widespread bitterly cold temperatures. We only saw an official snowfall amount of 1.0 inches during that snowstorm. Now, how is climate change playing a role? One of the impacts that we have seen is due to the warmer temperatures. A lot of our winter precipitation is falling more so as some heavier rainfall as opposed to heavier snow. Now, that being said, when we do get cold enough temperatures, the moisture increase by the rise in temperatures can still cause heavy snow. It's just a little harder to come by in today's warmer world. Now, as temperature warms up, moisture exponentially increases. And due to the rise in temperature and rise in water temperatures from climate change, there is more moisture to work with. And due to that moisture, we've seen heavier rainfall. This winter has been a case in point of that. Now, we can still see some heavy snows as the last 2 Februaries have dealt out. However, it takes those colder temperatures, which are harder to come by due to climate change. Now, through the next couple of weeks, we are likely to stay above average in the temperature department with slightly milder than normal conditions, and that means our snowfall drought not going anywhere. That being said, we are seeing signs of a pattern flip that could bring us a change in the weather. That would likely come in right around the turn of the month into February. And remember how we mentioned the last 2 Februaries? Those brought us some big late season snowstorms, both in the month of February. Statistically, it's not our snowiest month of the year, but time will tell what the rest of this winter has in store. Whether Mother Nature decides to give us some snow or we continue this drought, we'll keep you updated every Friday. You can head to WTOL.com/email for the latest Climate Friday newsletter. Thanks for tuning in.